Have you ever wondered why someone just won't leave your mind? No matter how much time passes, no matter how busy your life gets, their face, their voice, or even the smallest memory of them keeps coming back again and again. It could be a person you once loved, a friend you lost touch with, or even someone you barely know, yet they occupy space in your thoughts as if they belong there. Why does this happen? Is it obsession? Is it love? Or could it be something much deeper, something hidden within your own psychology? Carl Jung, one of the most influential thinkers in modern psychology, had a fascinating answer to this mystery. He believed that when a person stays on your mind, it's rarely about them. It's about you. That constant thought, that persistent pull, is often a signal from your unconscious mind, trying to reveal something you haven't faced yet. Think about it. How many times have you tried to distract yourself, only to find your mind drifting back to the same person? It's almost as if your thoughts are stuck on repeat. Jung would say this isn't an accident, it's a message, a sign that this person represents a part of you that needs to be seen. And before we dive deeper into Jung's explanation, I want to ask you something. Right now, who is the first person that comes to your mind? Don't overthink it. Just the very first name, or even just their initials. Go ahead and drop it in the comments below. You'll be surprised how many others share the same experience. And reading through the answers might make you realize you're not alone. Because here's the truth. Someone being stuck in your mind doesn't mean you're weak or obsessed. It means your unconscious is trying to get your attention. But what exactly is it trying to tell you? In the next part, we'll uncover why your mind keeps circling back to that person, and why Jung believed this experience could change the way you see yourself forever. Have you noticed how strange it is that certain people keep circling in your mind even when you don't want them to? You might be working, scrolling through your phone, or lying in bed, and suddenly, there they are again. It feels almost intrusive, like your brain is pulling you back to them against your will. But Carl Jung would say this isn't just random daydreaming or emotional weakness. He would argue that the reason someone stays on your mind has less to do with them and more to do with what they represent inside you. Think about it. Our minds aren't blank slates. They're full of hidden memories, buried emotions, and unexpressed desires. Most of the time, we're not even aware of what's operating beneath the surface. Jung called this the unconscious, and he believed it plays a far bigger role in our lives than we realize. When someone keeps showing up in your thoughts, it could mean that they've tapped into this hidden world. Maybe they remind you of a forgotten part of yourself. Or maybe they trigger something unresolved that your conscious mind has tried to ignore. For example, imagine you can't stop thinking about a person you admired. On the surface, it feels like admiration. But Jung would say your mind may actually be projecting your own hidden potential onto them. What you see in them is a reflection of something you carry within but haven't fully owned yet. On the other hand, if someone irritates you or triggers you deeply, your constant thoughts about them may be because they reflect qualities buried in your shadow, the parts of yourself you've rejected or suppressed. Either way, the fact that they are always in your thoughts means they are carrying something symbolic, something much larger than their physical presence. It's not easy to accept this, because most of us want to believe that when we can't stop thinking about someone, it's purely about them. We tell ourselves it's about their charm, their beauty, their personality. But Jung would challenge that view. He would say, look closer. What does this person awaken in you? What part of yourself are they mirroring back? This is where the real work begins, because the mind doesn't get stuck without reason. Sometimes it's unfinished emotional business, a conversation that never happened, an apology never received, or a connection that ended too soon. Other times, it's much deeper. That person becomes the canvas on which your unconscious paints its messages. They are not just a person anymore. They're a symbol. And if you ignore this, the thoughts won't simply disappear. They'll keep circling, keep repeating, until you finally face what your unconscious is trying to tell you. Now, I want you to reflect for a moment. When someone is always on your mind, Do you think it's because of who they are or because of what they bring out in you? Drop your answer below. I'm really curious whether you lean more toward them or me. Your perspective might help someone else who's struggling with the exact same thing. Here's the fascinating part. Jung believed that people who occupy our thoughts in this way are almost like psychological messengers. They carry pieces of our hidden self back into awareness. And whether the feelings are positive or negative, attraction or irritation, there's always a lesson hidden inside. So the next time you find yourself lost in thoughts of someone, don't just push it away or label it obsession. Instead ask, what is my mind trying to show me through this person? That one question might change the way you understand not only them, but yourself. Carl Jung believed that one of the most powerful forces shaping our relationships is projection. It's something we all do, often without realizing it, and it explains a lot about why certain people stay lodged in our thoughts. Projection means we unconsciously take qualities, emotions, or desires within ourselves and place them onto someone else. In other words, when we can't stop thinking about a person, it may not be about who they truly are, but about what we've projected onto them. Think of a time when you admired someone so intensely that they almost felt larger than life. Maybe it was a teacher, a celebrity, or even someone you had a crush on. Jung would say that what you admired most about them wasn't just their own qualities. It was a part of you, a hidden potential that you hadn't yet recognized. Your mind projects it onto them because it's easier to see it out there than to acknowledge it within yourself. That's why the thought of them becomes magnetic. They're holding on to a piece of your identity that you haven't fully claimed yet. The same is true in the opposite direction. Have you ever been deeply annoyed by someone, even though they didn't really do anything major? Sometimes just their presence or behavior gets under your skin in a way that feels unreasonable. According to Jung, this could be your shadow at work, the parts of yourself that you dislike, reject, or suppress. Instead of facing those qualities, you see them reflected in another person. And the more you resist, the stronger the projection becomes. That's why certain people keep haunting your mind. They're not just themselves. They're mirrors, showing you sides of yourself that are uncomfortable or unacknowledged. This is where things get really interesting. When you're constantly thinking about someone, it might not even matter what kind of relationship you have with them. It could be a friend, a stranger, or someone you only knew briefly. What matters is the role they're playing in your psychological story. They become like characters in a dream, each carrying meaning that goes far beyond their actual personality. Jung compared life itself to a kind of waking dream, where people around us often act as symbols as much as they do as individuals. Now, here's something worth asking yourself. What if the person you can't stop thinking about is actually carrying a message from your unconscious? What if they're not in your head because of fate or destiny, but because your mind has chosen them as the perfect screen for projection? That thought changes everything. It means the answer to why they're on your mind isn't out there with them. It's within you. Of course, this doesn't make the experience less powerful. In fact, it makes it even more fascinating. Imagine realizing that your crush might be showing you your own hidden creativity, or that the person you resent is pointing you toward a part of yourself that you've denied. The more you become aware of projection, the more these constant thoughts start to feel like clues rather than chains. So here's a challenge. The next time someone keeps appearing in your thoughts, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what part of me do they reflect? Maybe it's ambition. Maybe it's vulnerability. Maybe it's a dream you've buried or a wound you haven't healed. Whatever the answer is, you'll find that the more you claim those qualities for yourself, the less overwhelming the obsession becomes. And let's make this interactive. When you think about the person who's always on your mind, do you feel it's mostly admiration, attraction, or irritation? Comment just one word below. It'll be fascinating to see which feeling shows up most often, and you might realize that many others are wrestling with the same type of projection you are. Carl Jung often spoke about the shadow, the hidden side of our personality that we usually don't want to admit exists. The shadow is made up of the qualities we reject, deny, or suppress because they don't fit the image we want to present to the world. Maybe it's anger, jealousy, weakness, or even positive qualities like ambition or confidence that we were told were too much. Whatever ends up in the shadow doesn't disappear, it hides. And Jung believed that one of the ways the shadow makes itself known is through the people we can't stop thinking about. Think about it this way. Sometimes the reason someone lingers in your mind is because they're carrying a piece of your shadow. Their personality, their behavior, or even the way they make you feel activates something you've buried within yourself. This is why people who frustrate or irritate us often take up just as much mental space as those we love. They're not only themselves, they're reflections of what we don't want to face. The stronger the reaction, the stronger the shadow connection. For example, imagine you constantly think about a colleague who seems overly confident, almost arrogant. On the surface, you might tell yourself you dislike them because of their attitude. But what if the real reason is that their confidence mirrors your own buried desire to speak up, to be bold, to take space? Because you've pushed that quality into your shadow, you don't recognize it as part of you. You only see it reflected in them. And so, your mind keeps circling back not because of who they are, but because of what they awaken in you. The shadow can also show up in relationships that feel magnetic, even addictive. You might be drawn to someone who embodies qualities you've suppressed, like passion, creativity, or risk-taking. Being around them feels intoxicating because they're living out parts of yourself you've kept locked away. But instead of claiming those qualities as your own, you project them onto the other person. This creates a powerful attachment. Your unconscious is desperate to integrate the shadow, and so it keeps pulling you toward whoever represents it. This is why Jung believed that shadow work is essential. Until you face and accept these hidden parts of yourself, you'll remain haunted by the people who seem to stick in your thoughts. They'll appear again and again, not because of fate or destiny, but because your mind is using them as mirrors. The more you resist, the stronger the pull becomes. Here's something to reflect on. When someone is always on your mind, is it possible that they're showing you something you've been unwilling to see in yourself? Maybe they irritate you because they're bold where you feel timid. Maybe they fascinate you because they're free where you feel trapped. If you dig deeper, you'll often find that the person you can't forget isn't the real issue. It's the shadow within you that's crying out for recognition. Now, I want to hear from you. Think about the person who's been occupying your mind lately. Do they trigger mostly positive feelings or negative ones? Drop your answer in the comments. Just write positive or negative. This will not only help you reflect on your own experience, but also show you how many others are wrestling with similar shadow connections. The truth is, the shadow isn't something to fear. It's a part of you that's waiting to be integrated, waiting to be accepted. And until you acknowledge it, it will keep using other people as symbols to get your attention. So the next time someone refuses to leave your thoughts, ask yourself, what part of my shadow is trying to return to the light through them? Carl Jung believed that beneath all our personal experiences lies something much bigger, universal patterns he called archetypes. These archetypes are like ancient characters in the human story, symbols that appear in myths, dreams, and even in the people who enter our lives. When someone is always on your mind, it may not just be about their personality or your history with them. It might be because they are activating one of these deep, timeless archetypes inside you, and that's why the connection feels so powerful and unforgettable. Think about it. Every culture throughout history has told stories of the lover, the hero, the wise mentor, the rebel, the trickster. These are not just characters in old myths. They live within our collective unconscious. When you meet someone who embodies one of these roles for you, they immediately become larger than life. They carry a symbolic weight that keeps pulling at your thoughts. You can't shake them because, in your inner world, they've taken on the role of an archetype, and archetypes are not easy to ignore. For example, maybe the person you're drawn to represents the archetype of the lover. It's not just attraction, it's the activation of a story as old as humanity itself, the longing for connection, intimacy, and union. Or maybe someone who inspires you is embodying the archetype of the mentor. They appear in your mind again and again because they've awakened your inner student, the part of you hungry to learn, grow, and evolve. On the other hand, sometimes the person who lingers in your thoughts feels more like the rebel or the trickster, someone who disrupts your sense of order, challenges your beliefs, or tempts you into chaos. Even if you resist, the energy of that archetype keeps echoing in your unconscious, which is why they don't fade away so easily. This is one reason why some connections feel strangely fated. You might meet someone for only a brief moment, yet they stay with you as if you've known them forever. Jung would say it's because the encounter wasn't just personal, it was archetypal. That person stepped into a role your unconscious recognized instantly, and from that moment on, they became part of your inner story. But here's the important part. Archetypes aren't just about the other person. They're mirrors of the stories unfolding within you. If someone embodies the lover, it might be awakening your own longing for intimacy or creativity. If someone embodies the hero, it may be reminding you of your own untapped courage. And if someone embodies the rebel, perhaps it's pointing you toward the parts of yourself that want freedom and change. The reason they're always on your mind is that they've stirred something in you that is archetypal, something bigger than both of you. So let me ask you this. When you think about the person who won't leave your mind, what role do they feel like in your story? Do they feel like a lover, a mentor, a rival, or maybe even a trickster? Drop just one word in the comments. Lover, mentor, rival, or trickster. You might be surprised how many people recognize the same roles playing out in their own lives. The fascinating thing is that once you begin to recognize these archetypes, the obsessive pull of certain thoughts starts to make more sense. It's not random and it's not meaningless. It's your unconscious calling attention to the universal stories that are shaping your personal journey. And the more aware you become, the more power you gain to step into your own role, not just as a character reacting to others, but as the author of your life's narrative. So the next time someone keeps appearing in your mind, pause and ask yourself, which archetype are they playing for me? And what story is my unconscious asking me to live through them? That question alone can turn constant thoughts from a source of confusion into a source of profound insight. When Carl Jung explored why certain people stay in our thoughts, he always returned to one central idea. It's not really about them, it's about you. The mind loves to make us believe that our endless thoughts are caused by someone else's beauty, charm, or behavior. But Jung would argue that the person is more like a mirror, reflecting back to you the parts of yourself that you have not yet owned, healed, or understood. That is why the pull feels so intense, because deep down, it isn't just about missing them, wanting them, or hating them. It's about discovering what they awaken in you. Think about it. When someone takes over your thoughts, it's tempting to imagine that the solution lies in getting their attention, winning their love, or finally resolving things with them. But have you noticed that even when circumstances change, when you get the closure you thought you needed, or even when you spend time with the person, the thoughts don't always disappear? That's because the real issue was never fully about them. The real issue is the unfinished conversation you need to have with yourself. Jung believed that our unconscious uses other people as symbols to bring hidden truths into the light. If someone is always on your mind, it may be because they've become the stage on which your deeper story is being played out. Maybe they represent your longing for freedom, your hunger for connection, your fear of rejection, or your need for self-expression. The person is simply the vessel. The meaning comes from within you. This is why some people stay with us for years, even if the relationship was brief or even if it ended badly. It isn't about clinging to them. It's about the fact that they stirred something so personal, so deeply rooted, that our unconscious won't let go until we face it. They become a doorway, pointing us toward the parts of ourselves that need attention. And until you walk through that doorway, your mind will keep circling back. It can be a hard truth to accept because it means we can't just blame fate, chemistry, or the other person. It means we have to look inward and ask, what is this experience teaching me about myself? What hidden need is being revealed? What part of my story is waiting to be lived? Once you shift the focus from them to you, everything changes. Suddenly the thoughts don't feel like chains anymore. They feel like messages, clues guiding you towards self-discovery. Here's something to try. The next time this person enters your thoughts, don't just replay old memories or imagine future scenarios. Instead, pause and ask, if they are a mirror, what are they showing me right now? Maybe they're showing you your capacity to love, your courage to feel, or even your vulnerability that you've tried to hide. By reframing the obsession in this way, you start turning the energy inward, where it can transform you. Now I want to hear your perspective. Do you think the person on your mind is there because of who they are, or because of what they awaken in you? Drop them or me in the comments. There's no right or wrong answer, but your response might open someone else's eyes to a new way of seeing their own thoughts. At the heart of Jung's teachings is this: the people who haunt our minds are not accidents, and they are not punishments. They are opportunities. They push us to look deeper, to see the truths we might otherwise avoid. And if you have the courage to listen, those persistent thoughts might just lead you to the most important discovery of all, not about them, but about yourself. So here we are, at the end of this journey. We began with a simple but haunting question: why is someone always on your mind? And through Carl Jung's wisdom, we've uncovered that it's not just about love, obsession, or memory. It's about something far deeper, your unconscious calling you to grow, to heal, and to step into your most authentic self. When you realize this, everything shifts. The endless loop of thoughts that once felt like a burden begins to look like an invitation. That person you can't stop thinking about is not simply a distraction from your life. They are a messenger. They are the mirror reflecting the parts of yourself you've overlooked, suppressed, or left unexplored. And that realization can be the key to breaking free. Imagine what it would feel like if, instead of being pulled by restless thoughts, you could use them as fuel for transformation. Every memory, every feeling, every longing would become a clue, guiding you toward the pieces of yourself that need attention. Instead of resisting the thoughts, you could welcome them, not as a chain, but as a compass. That's the power of Jung's insight. But here's the truth: very few people take this step. Most get stuck at the surface. They chase after the person, hoping that external validation will fix the internal longing. They blame circumstances, timing, or even fate. And while doing that, they miss the deeper message. They never pause to ask, what is my unconscious trying to show me? Jung would say that's why they never truly find themselves. They remain strangers to their own depths. You don't have to be one of those people. Right now, you have the opportunity to turn this restless energy into something life-changing. The next time that person comes into your mind, don't push it away and don't get lost in fantasy. Instead, sit with it. Ask yourself, what do they represent for me? What hidden part of myself are they helping me see? The answers may not come immediately, but if you stay curious and open, the unconscious will begin to reveal its secrets. And here's where I want you to take action, not just think about it. Pause for a moment and name the person who keeps showing up in your mind. You don't need to explain why, just write their initials in the comments below. You might be surprised at how many others share the same struggle. When you see the responses, you'll realize this isn't just your story. It's a universal human experience, one that connects us all. But don't stop there. I want you to go one step deeper. In one sentence, share what you think this person is teaching you about yourself. Is it patience? Vulnerability? Courage? Healing? When you put it into words, you start the process of integration, the process Jung believed was the foundation of true self-discovery. Because in the end, This isn't just about why someone is on your mind. It's about who you become through the experience. Will you let the thoughts control you, or will you use them to uncover the parts of yourself that are waiting to be embraced? That choice will shape not only how you see this person, but how you see yourself and your life. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is your chance to break that cycle, to take back your power, to realize that you were never just thinking about them. You were being called to remember you. So I'll leave you with this question. If the person who's always on your mind is a mirror, what part of yourself are they showing you? Drop your answer below and let's explore this together. Because your journey to self-discovery doesn't end here. It begins here.